Diego Pavia walks into fall camp as the odds-on favorite to win the quarterback one job. Let's get it.
You are Locked On Vandy, your daily podcast on the Vanderbilt Commodores, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into the Locked On Vandy podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, Corey Burton. Thank you for making us your first listen each and every day. Speaking of the everydayers, thank you for listening. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast and on YouTube as a part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. Well, my special guest, Coach Kurt Page, returns to the program. They're in the middle of spring practice here. And speaking of spring practice, on the heels of spring practice, Diego Pavia is the odds-on favorite, even though he's not on campus yet, but he is walking in to a situation to where he's going to be quarterback one, as I presume. But there's some things happening behind the scenes that could throw not really a wrench into it, but a different feel to the quarterback situation. But Kurt, what does Diego Pavia walk into? How does fall camp look now with the reps that the other quarterbacks have taken on campus versus what's going to happen over the course of fall camp?
Well, Corey, just anchor down. Just want to say it right now, get it out there. The big thing that happened this spring, and what happens for a lot of guys that are first-year players, and we got a lot of first-year players playing together at Vanderbilt, so they had to learn a new system. So now they've got it on film of them performing in this system. And now we know our coaches will break down the film, evaluate the film, make slight adjustments. And now Coach has now the QB1. So this spring was more like a bridge until he gets on campus. So now it gives all these other guys reps. It's kind of like an old school NFL where the NFL guy, the number one guy, it's like a mini camp, you know. And so now they bring him in, and now he's got all the film, he's got the accolades, and he's ready to go with a very tight group that is nipping at his heels with athletic ability, with coachability, and with a lot of guys that want to do very, very well. So you got a tremendous competitive environment that was not there and has not been there. So that is the number one thing. We've got a competitive environment from the quarterback position to every other position. That's what you want in spring football.
Absolutely. And from what I understood from the spring football session is that these quarterbacks do different things extremely well. Like you have Nate Johnson, who is not as polished as a guy from the pocket, but offers a great deal of athleticism, can throw on the run, and has a package of things that he can do really, really well, and some things that he needs to continue to improve on. Blaze Berlowitz, he was the first Aggie door on board
right.
after Tim Beck joined on as offensive coordinator. He was Pavia's backup quarterback in New Mexico, and he has the strongest arm, and he looks the best from the pocket.
Okay.
And all of them can run a little bit. And then, Drew Dickey is somebody that, unfortunately, he's probably going to be on the outside looking in to this race because he does everything very solidly, but nothing exceptional above like Nate Johnson's running ability and ability to throw on the run, or Blaze Berlowitz's arm and accuracy. Drew Dickey is all of that, but just right behind those guys in the pecking order right now as it stands. And then what Pavia brings in to that race is, now it's going to be a very interesting, tight race. And I've mentioned on one of my shows, and we'll talk about it here in a second, but Vandy's going to I feel like Vandy's going to get real creative with the quarterback position here. But Pavia, great downhill runner, great in RPO, great, great at short intermediate throws, extremely accurate, not a overly powerful arm to drive the ball down the field. But what he lacks in vertical throwing ability, he gains in intermediate to short accuracy and just understanding of the mental part of the game. So I'm excited about this race. It's going to be interesting. I don't think, like you said, Vandy has not had a race this competitive in quite some time.
That's right. It's been a, kind of winner by default, when the kids got injured and then, the other kid plays and then he comes back and he gets re-injured. Then the other guy plays. So it's really, we really haven't had that. And so it's exciting.
No identity either. That doesn't help.
Come again?
No identity either.
No identity. You're exactly right. Corey, I mean, you know how it is in coaching. You got to know your bread and butter. You got to know what you want. And the players got to know what you want. And the fans got to know what you want. And now, we got a Clark Lea led defense. He's the head ball coach. He's appointed the offense to Tim Beck. And so, we're riding. And so a lot of cool things are happening. And so it's really just put the metal to the floor and let's roll, because we really need to get in the transfer portal and take care of some things that we need to go get. We don't need to be we need to be aggressive. We need to continue to be aggressive. And I think that's what's happening. Would you agree to that in the recruiting?
Yeah, it would. And I think the term aggressive is also when you talk about portal, and I'm going to jump back to the quarterbacks here in just a second, but when you talk about being aggressive in the portal, they're being aggressive, but the guys they're going after have very specific abilities. And the word that really comes to mind is potential. Like you have these guys that have a lot of potential, but just haven't that potential hasn't met their opportunities. Like Cade McConnell from Minnesota, he hasn't played really on the offensive line, but he's 6'5", 310, very real long 3-star kid coming out of high school from the state of Oklahoma. Really athletic, really good, powerful tackle, but in that league, he probably just couldn't crack that. That was a really talented Minnesota offensive line that he was trying to crack the lineup for, and he just couldn't quite do it. So he saw an opportunity at Vanderbilt, and he may step in and become the right tackle. Stephen Hubbard, he's played tackle and guard at UTEP, but at 6'3", 315, 320, somewhere in that ballpark, he's probably going to hunker down at a guard position because at his length, the guards in this league are a little bit shorter, more powerful, more stocky. I think that could potentially be the right side of your line with the Losoya kid at center, and then Pitchford and Gunnar Hansen as returning starters on the left side. I think that could shake out to be possibly your offensive line there. Leighton Nelson being another starter that transferred away, unfortunately. But that, again, there's a unique mix of guys. Aggressive in the portal, receivers. Did you see the receivers that have been offered, that have been, that they've been going after? Like the kid from Iowa, which it's kind of a bold strategy going for one of the most historically abysmal offenses. But you get a receiver that hasn't really played a whole lot. Extremely talented, could probably benefit you in special teams. I don't know if it's just he's been injured a little bit too. That doesn't help, but his name's Jacob Bostic. Look up his high school film. His high school film is impressive, Kurt. He can win the ball. The most important traits are his return ability and his ability to win the ball at the high point and win contested catches. And that's a very specific skill set that Vandy's looking for. Like they got the downfield vertical guy in Dillon. They've got Quincy Skinner, that just the all around Swiss Army knife tough guy. Junior Sherrill's kind of the slasher slot guy. Richie Hoskins is like the Wes Welker, Julian Edelman. Now you get a red zone guy potentially in Bostic. which is kind of impressive. But like potential, like what's like being aggressive?
Corey, it's called alignment. I think our coaching staff, from the front office to general manager to the head coach to all the positions coaches, you are just the messenger, but the message that you're saying is the right message because they're in alignment. They're getting guys with specific talents and traits, skill, ability, and they're going after certain guys and they're identifying them. And that's what's attracted to these young men. I guarantee you know that as a coach and a player, former player, a coach talks to you, and this is what we need from you to do. Can you do this? A, B, C, X, Y, Z. Mm-hmm. And those are things that he loves doing. Like you mentioned, the kid from Iowa, punt returner, kickoff return. Yes. Can you dig the ball? Can you dig some blocking assignments out over the middle? And then we run some over routes. Yes. Can you do this? Yes. So it's a good fit. So they're coming. And I always like what Nick Saban said about the transfer portal when it first started. He said, do not go in the transfer portal and bring a guy in not to play him.
All right, we are presented by Monopoly Go. So I've been told that I'm a competitive person. I think it's true. I know it's true. Yeah, okay, I have a competitive side. Yeah, we all do. And my competitive side is a big fan of Monopoly Go. I'm sure you've heard of it. It's been downloaded over 150 million times. It's a great twist on Monopoly where you play on not one, but hundreds of Monopoly boards in crazy locations, building up amazing cities that bring you big money. So the best part, though, is messing with my friends. I can charge them rent on my iconic properties just like classic Monopoly, but now I can also heist their vaults of riches for myself. And the leaderboards show me who the biggest Monopoly tycoon is. But it's not just my competitive side that loves it. You can team up with friends and people all around the world in timed tournaments, earn huge rewards. So get in on the game and join your friends. Download Monopoly Go now, free on the App Store or Google Play. Gametime. Have you ever had a frustrating ticket buying experience, especially if it was an MLB game? Whew. Those are not fun to mess out on. So Gametime is now an authorized ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, which makes getting tickets even faster and easier. Prices on the Gametime app actually go down the closer it gets to first pitch. With killer last-minute deals, all-in prices, views from your seat, and their lowest price guarantee, Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying MLB tickets. I love the seat views, getting a panoramic view from your seat in the app before you buy. They have last-minute deals. You can save up to 60% off buying last minute for sports, concerts, comedy, theater, etc. They have flash deals, even more with exclusive in-app deals on select seats ahead of the game or event. Zone deals. This is cool. Save even more when you choose a section and let Gametime choose the seats. All-in pricing. If they show you the total up front, there's no surprise fees at checkout. You see what you see. It's what you get. Like I said, the panoramic view from the seats of the seats from in the app. Lowest price guarantee, or Gametime will credit you 110% of the difference. Sounds like a home run to me. Pun intended. Gametime ticket coverage. Your purchase is covered with the most flexible customer service policy in the ticketing industry. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Are you tired? Welcome back. Are you tired of all of that screaming that happens when you're watching ESPN and Fox Sports? Do you have to, if you're tired of all that, you need to make the switch to Locked On Sports Today. It's a free 24/7 sports streaming channel programmed for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all of the screaming. Locked On Sports Today brings you can't miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That was his thing. Now that's the best team at the time, but really that needs to work for every team. Mm-hmm. I mean, we need depth. You know, hey, I need a third tackle, so he's really not that. But
those are your flyers, though. Those are your flyers in your high school guys.
Yes, I mean, these are guys already on your campus. Is he similar to what you have on your campus, lengthwise, lifting wise, ability wise? Well, you've already put a year or so on a kid lifting, and let's put another year on him. Let's bring him along as the third tackle. And I think those are the type of discussions they're having now.
Yeah, I mean, you don't get out of the Big Ten to develop him. I mean, he's ready to roll.
He's got to get in there and start. And so when he comes in there, his mindset is like what's happening in the quarterback room. Every quarterback knew they had a short window before QB1 was showing up. Now, coaches can sugarcoat it, say, oh, it's a full, everything's wide open. Well, every film they watched for the last 2 seasons has been this guy. But now they have film of them running the offense. Mm-hmm. So now they can make adjustments and develop, and they got to learn more about their abilities. And that's what I love these conversations with you, Corey, is you are bringing out, which is people, y'all don't understand how important and how vital to have someone like Corey Burton to bring this out of all the receivers, bring this out a special skill set of players. It's putting a puzzle together. And that's what Corey is helping everybody on the outside, because we're not in those meetings. No. We don't know NIL. We don't know transfer portal. We don't know who's coming here. We don't know who's committed. We don't really know who's been offered. We don't know that, okay? So here's what Corey does for all of us, basically full time. I mean, he's on this. He knows exactly what skill set these guys got and then what they're going to – and when they get here, if they do that, then it's a win-win. And if they do that and do more, it's it's icing on the cake. Mm-hmm. So that's the big thing. I thank you for doing that, because a lot of our fans do not this is a service that just is not available to everybody, and that in depth, and you can see it. You can see the puzzle. And then, that makes sense, Mm-hmm. We need another tight end. That makes sense. That gives us – we can get down there and run 4 tight ends, or, walk guys over and run outside zone, with Diego, running, doing all the stuff they like doing, So
yeah, absolutely.
It's exciting. It's exciting. But the thing is, they are on the same page. They're in alignment, and recruiting is showing that. Now, they're probably working tirelessly. I know, 12, 14, 16. They're working some hours, because this is the combination of high school recruiting, colleges, open transfer portal.
They've expanded the staff to kind of cover both of those areas.
Good. That's so good. Thank goodness to our president and our AD. They're all in, and they're building facilities, and mm-hmm. it's a lot of stuff that's happening. And maybe I don't know if it'll happen overnight, but it's a hell of a lot better than it was. So.
Oh yeah, I mean you're seeing complete overhaul take place right before your eyes. But
yeah.
So okay, let me ask you this while I got you here. All right. Yeah. Let me ask you this. Dare I say, is there a potential, I don't want to say 2 quarterback system, because with that sounds really sounds bad. No. But
it's different. It's different situation. I think the offense that we run, the wear and tear of that, we can run heavy quarterback, we can run heavy pass game, we can run heavy play action. And you got to get the best 2 guys that can get you up and down that field, and getting guys in and out. I think when you win 2 ball games and you're not dynamic and you're not explosive, you find, like you have done. This is a great thing. You've already talked about who throws the hardest deep ball, who got the most accuracy, who is the best scrambler if it breaks down, who is the best downhill runner. So all this stuff. I mean, that's great insight. So that's what we need. And so the coaches have to figure out what schemes they want to go after, what teams, and then put the people in those schemes to their strengths, Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty thing of the whole thing, is we're playing to those kids' strengths, and that's what you want.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be something that's going to get you down the field. Now, I did a whole episode or a whole portion of an episode about, what that would potentially look like, where you take, Pavia obviously runs the main show and he runs the bulk 90% of the offense. But you have 10% of the offense go through Nate Johnson. You have a package of things that he can do, and he's dynamic enough to where it's not going to be like a 2006 Tim Tebow situation where here comes 17 and they're running it, so we're going to load up 9 in the box and we're going to run blitz it and hit it right in the teeth. No, Nate Johnson can work that ball down the field. He's got an arm on him, and he can boot and he can get away. So he's a threat in the passing game. I mean, he's a legitimate contender for QB1. He's just so dang raw that I don't think he can beat out an experienced guy like Diego Pavia.
Right.
But I think he's valuable enough to warrant 10% of the game plan each week. And if the game dictates it more, but I think you have to, and I think Pavia understands that coming in, hey, we're just going to do this thing, as it comes, if against New Mexico State, if against Virginia Tech, it's all Pavia with a dash of Nate Johnson, so be it. If against South Carolina later on in the season, Pavia, nicks a fingertip on a helmet and is out for 2 quarters, and it's Nate Johnson's show and they're up and they stick with Nate Johnson to finish out the game, then so be it. That's just the way it's got to be. And so you have to, he understands that. I think the whole quarterback room understands that. I think Nate Johnson understands that. And I think Blaise Berlowitz understands that if something happens long-term to Pavia, I think he steps in Pavia's role and Nate Johnson just kind of remains unchanged, at least for this year. Okay. I think that's how I would see a 2-quarterback system, because I think Berlowitz and Pavia are very, very similar in their role. And I think Nate Johnson is super specific, at least this year, as he develops. Now, next year, he could be a dynamic QB1, unquestioned 100% guy. I just don't see that this year. This episode is also presented by FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. It's raging on. The Preds have tied the series at 1 apiece. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your best place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers will get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. So bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. So what are you waiting for? So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel is America's number one sportsbook.
Well, we all respect experience. Okay. Now there's 2 coins to that. One is he has, been QB1, but he's also taking on a lot of hits. Okay. He's played a lot of snaps and he's played different than a lot of other quarterbacks. He's almost rated, I would say it's more like, and he's a wrestler, so he's used to this. I get it, but we're coming into the SEC full time. It's not like we're going to play Auburn and all they're thinking about is Alabama, and they've paid the money and they're having homecoming, and they got smacked.
Brutal schedule.
Yeah, so they got smacked. So my big thing is, I think in this offense, the beauty of it is now, are we going to be that type of team that controls the ball and controls the clock? And if we do that successfully, then we can run the other guy, get some guys some other snaps and get them where we're going to go for it on 4th down, which I love doing, and so it gets your defense, and if we have a great kicker, then obviously, we're going to get points when we need to get the points. But I think we haven't even, Corey, and the 2-minute drills coming in, there hadn't been any there's been no games to where the previous season there was strategy at the end. There was momentum that had to be decided. There were plays that had to be called. But now we're rebuilding. We're rebooting. We got our offense together. We got our defense together. we know the defense should be always ahead of the offense in all situations, really. And so that's okay because they're flying around. Now, once the offense, and you know this as a coordinator, offensive coordinator, as you get more of your packages in, then, okay, that's going to take care of this. That's going to take care of that, you know? Mm-hmm. And so, obviously, spring ball the way it is to get a fair assessment of every quarterback. And really, Corey, I mean, it's got to be every position is documented and critiqued and evaluated and assessed. I mean, it is something else nowadays. I mean, I can only imagine the meetings and the breakdowns and how because you kind of have to be scouting your own players, but you got to have a group, like you said, another group scouting other people's players, and then making evaluations and assessments on who's better. You know, it's a crazy time to be a college football, but that's what's happening. You know, so
you're basically just an NFL junior at this point with the way the staffs are building out. But so it's very natural for fans to going back on what you said, defense is always way ahead of the offense in spring. It's so natural. I felt compelled at one point after the first scrimmage to do an episode about this, why you shouldn't freak out that the offense is struggling right now. And so it always blows my mind. Like fans are like, oh my God, defense is just crushing the offense right now. We're never going to move the ball. Yeah. But, you know, Carson Beck looked pedestrian in some of the scrimmages at Georgia. And he's one of the best quarterbacks in the nation, if not the best quarterback in the nation coming into this season. And
absolutely,
like, that's the kind of thing that happens in spring because like offensively you're working on different things. Is probably the main reason. You're working on different things. You're working on different combinations of guys. You're working in different scenarios. A lot of times the offensive coordinator will communicate with the defensive coordinator, say, hey, here's our script, stack the deck against us. And the offensive coordinator will put them in unfavorable situations by design to see how they react.
Yes.
And it's perceived as the offensive line sucks and quarterbacks can't do anything. You know, that's what it's perceived as. And I'm just like, slow down. So
pump the brakes.
Pump the brakes. And then, you know, as you said, you know, the defense, they've got most of their packages in. They're just working. They're just working reads at this point. They're just reading and reacting in spring. So like them working on stuff is more reactionary, more aggressive because that's just the nature of that side of the ball. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an exciting time. Spring had to be really good for those kids at Vanderbilt. I didn't get a chance to come up. Yeah, new energy. You can see a light at the end of the tunnel. It wasn't a train. I mean, they can see themselves, you know, getting off to a good start and winning some games and then making the back end competitive and seeing, you know, get in the bowl game. You know, that's the thing. You know, find a way, scratch claw, get to that 6th win, and go for a bowl game and get, you know, reload again. You know, let's go. You know, we should come into next year with a solid QB1 with maybe a QB2 pressing him. You know, and like you said, you got a recruit already committed. You got Elliott. 2 guys you're bringing in. Yeah. You know, things got to start shaking out, you know, because it's really and you don't have a long time to develop unless the good thing is most of the quarterbacks are going to have time to continue developing because I know they'll be patient with some of them. But like you said, Drew Dickey, he does everything okay. But nothing jumps off the chart at this point. Now, they'll go back and watch his film, and this is where the coaching really steps in, Corey, and you know this. Mm-hmm. The coaching now brings out those things that he found that kid can do well. Yeah. And he tells him, you know, I need you to have, you know, I need you to look to throw the ball more inside the numbers. You know, that trust your arm, you know, you can put it in there or, you know, make sure the ball gets out quicker against 4 weak, you know, on the blitz. And so now his game is improving, see? And so that becomes he's getting better and he's growing. And then, it's a beautiful time too to be a coach, because at a point, if you love the kid and you're in the kid business, what do you help him do? You help him find a place where he can go play if he can't crack the lineup here.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that's what's happened. I don't know anybody's situation. I just know that is the true coaching way to do things in life, is to help people get what they want as soon as they can get it. If that kid wants to be, now if he wants to be a coach and he's learning by design, being third team, fourth team, and, I've heard that from some guys before, and I think it's exceptional. And I think they need to really lean in on those guys and give them some opportunities because we used to do that back in the day with the NFL and a lot of the pro teams. They would have backups, 3-4 years, and a lot of your professional teams, they knew. And the same thing, that was the old Bear Bryant recruiting. He would try to sign all the athletes that played quarterback, so no one had a quarterback to play against him. That was his big thing as athletics director. He would sign guys to, sign 15, 17 quarterbacks, in a signing class. So for us to have this much production in the quarterback room, my hat goes off to him, because I'm really impressed. And I think we can see the puzzle developing now. There's going to be some teams that got bigger puzzle pieces than we got,
Yeah, I mean, there's some teams on the schedule like Alabama and Texas, LSU and Tennessee that have the bigger puzzle pieces and that have the puzzle more figured out than we do at this juncture.
Right.
But it is college football, and crazier things have happened in the past. So I'm not calling my shot here, but I mean, I'm speaking to the last guy that beat Alabama wearing the V. So like I said, anything can happen.
It can happen. It basically has to, you have to be building towards something. I think that's what we're doing now. We're building toward, getting better and getting more competitive and getting a brand of football that Clark Lea likes. I think, he's just had, he's had his opportunities now to learn and grow on the job, and now it's time to do the job and get us to the bowl game, and that's what he's doing, and everything he's putting out there is, A1. So let's just try to get behind him and try to see. And Corey, you keep going and finding out the nicks and the crannies and holes, and that gives so much insight, and that's what all of us need and help us with the puzzles, because
people
because see, they really can't say, like, you don't even hear this from NFL. Well, we drafted him to be our slot receiver, all they say is, he's going to be maybe a third, and third could be what? Could be an X or a Z, or it could be slot, or what?
Third receiver could be. He's the guy that runs bubble screens and under routes.
Yeah,
like it's very role driven.
So basically, what you're giving the folks is really like, it's like high density. It's HD, man. It's not just. It's not just saying he's signed to be a wide receiver. Okay, great. Well, now you've got the research, got the video. Saw his stats, where did he play, what positions he played, how many targets he had. Okay, what happened here? Okay, went through some injury. This other guy got hot as receiver. I mean, Ole Miss receiver, Texas Tech receiver. I mean, the story goes on, right? I mean,
well, that's all we're going to do. That's all we're going to get for today. We're going to let you guys go. Make sure you check out part 2 tomorrow with Kurt Page. Also, baseball kicks off their series hosting Mississippi State. It is Alumni Weekend. They're going to unveil they're going to celebrate the 2014 and 2019 national championship teams. There's a lot of festivities on campus, so make sure you check out all of that. So we're going to let you go right there. So until then, check us out at Locked On Vandy on all social media platforms. Find us, like us, subscribe, all of those good things. And of course, as always, anchor down.